Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and today I want to bring to your attention a solution that I've got for garage and four-wheeling and overlanding that is a particular kind of jack. Now I've used the standard scissor jacks, that came with small cars all through the last, 5 decades at least. Hydraulic jacks, screw jacks that are in the hydraulic form factor, high lift jacks. It's a good way to wind up in the hospital. But I've got another hydraulic that I want to show you. But first of all, in my garage, I have these two that are around. I bought a Husky, not the greatest quality, not super expensive either. But it's definitely flying, when I'm using this, I'm flying way under its rating. So I'm hoping to avoid any problems there. But to stick a nice bottle jack under a vehicle is probably the most helpful kind of jack there is for kind of general DIY use and for off-roading. A lot of people grab, high lift jacks just out of principle, but there are, honestly, on most vehicles, there are very few places you can put a high lift jack. So then you have to buy a kit to attach it to a tire, but then you have to be in the right situation where a high lift is needed and works. There are situations, of course, where the high lift is the only solution, really. Portable, single person operated solution. But in most cases, a bottle jack is going to be way more versatile. I think this one, I don't know, was like $50 or $40 or something like that. But they're a tonnage rated, and generally you're not lifting an entire vehicle, you're lifting a quarter of it. This is a 12-ton bottle jack. It's pretty heavy. You wouldn't want this flying around your car, driving down a bumpy road. But it is a good jack for just starting out, changing your own tires, or maybe getting out of a tough spot. Now, one of the things to think about is the overall height of the jack, because you have to be able to get it under a vehicle. And if you're kind of high-centered on something, what can you grab with the jack base to raise it? Sometimes there's a little bit of adjustment. Sometimes you use two jacks, and that's where something like this can come in handy. Is if I'm flush, I might be able to raise it enough that I can wedge another jack in. These also come in handy for repairs. I mean, it's a super strong pry bar, if you will, and it has some support features, and that's what I use it mostly for. If I'm say I'm installing a trailer hitch on a car, I may want to just be able to raise it up very precisely. I turn it with my hand here and get everything totally aligned up to the position where I can insert the bolts. So these are super handy if you grab them used. A lot of times people almost throw them away because they aren't that great a jack, but they're great as a shop tool. But anyway, so I use this for both in tandem with what I'm about to show you, but also just to slide under if I need to swap a tire out or work on a brake or whatever. I do have a floor jack with with wheels and a long arm, but sometimes just getting that centered and everything, because I have it put away, is a hassle. Plus, I don't like carrying it with me anywhere. Anyway, what I want to show you, first I'm using these Stanley gloves right here. These are awful. I actually tore the Velcro off. They look like they would be decent gloves, but they're awful. They don't fit very well. They're pretty, I guess. I don't know what this thing is. Looks like it's already tearing compared. I mean, they're just junk. Place for your name. Yeah, right. Anyway, these Craftsman are probably a little bit better. We're talking inexpensive gloves here. These Craftsman, a little more supple in this area, but a little more textured. I don't think you can operate a phone with these. And I think that's supposed to be material that doesn't burn quite as easily. But one of the things that I do is, this is what I'm going to introduce you to, is the Safe Jack. in my jack kits, in my off-road kits, in my repair kits, every single kit right on the top starts with a pair of gloves. It's so easy to get caught in the moment and start working, and then finally you're bleeding or you're burned, or there's a problem that you created that all you had to do was slip on a pair of gloves. These are the ones I put with my jacking kits here. They're Milwaukee's. Lots of bumpers, lots of places that with additional protection on these gloves, and that's because it's a pretty crude environment. You're pulling tires, you're yanking on wrenches, you're reaching under, crawling under cars, especially if it's an emergency. The car's probably still pretty hot. So the first step, get gloves. So where do you put them? On the very tip top. The second thing in my jacking kit, and in a lot of my kits I have, is a light. Now I've got lots of lights, but I immediately have another light right here. It can be with a helper, somebody doesn't have one, or I'm again racing, caught in the moment. I need to have something. This is a Phoenix headlamp. This actually runs on I think it's 2 AA batteries. If you store something for a while, get the lithium AA batteries. They're not higher power batteries. They just are not affected by cold, and they're good on the shelf for 10 years or more. So there's a big difference between getting a lithium battery and getting a standard alkaline battery. So load them up, it's worth it. But anyway, it's got a standard light, red light, and it's a triple strap. And why that's important is because I can pull it on quickly over hats. Fits a lot of different head sizes right away because I can cinch these down, and it's not going to slide down, because if you're crawling around under something, you're going to be banging on things. You don't want to have to keep reaching up, adjusting your headlamp. And then of course it's got some movement here. It's not my favorite headlamp, which is why it's in here, but I'll do a talk on headlamps. I've got a lot of them and a lot of opinions, but I do keep one right there, right handy. So let's take a look at the jack stuff. Let me move these guys. So what we're working with here is the Safe Jack. And the Safe Jack, it's actually a company in Washington that produces a kit that is designed around this very specific bottle jack. And this bottle jack, it's made by another company, I believe, Megalift, 6-ton bottle jack. It's expensive. It's a super high performance, super high quality jack. If you read reviews about a lot of the jacks, go to Amazon, you can get a cheap jack. And then half the reviews say the thing didn't work, or it blew apart, or it leaks oil, or whatever. When you're jacking a vehicle, especially if it's off-road or something, you don't have a whole lot of second choices. So it's important to be able to grab the right tool at the right time, and probably the best is bottle jack. So what do I have? I've got my high lift instructions in here too, because sometimes I do have that with me. What do I have? I've got the standard jack, and this does extend up quite a ways. You can get several different flavors of these things. I needed one for the kinds of pickups and SUVs I drive. But the key here, besides a high-end jack, is they've created this coupling, or this kind of collar mechanism, couples with the top of the jack here, that allows different components to fit on and be solid. Doesn't seem to be any industry standard exactly, about the diameter here. And then by having, even though it's a plastic collar held on with an O-ring, then they can go ahead and start making attachments. And these attachments work great for opening up a lot of different possibilities with the jack, especially placement on the vehicle body and safety. So, if you're on unstable ground, this is going to be a lot more solid than just pushing up with that. And then you can use these in combination, for extra reach. And that's where tandem jacking works. So I may have that Husky, and I can jack the car up a ways, and then I can wedge this in taller, jack it up even higher. And sometimes, a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to get giant wheels off of their trucks and their SUVs. They probably took them to, Les Schwab or some tire dealer, and they're doing all the work. Every time I see a giant tire up on a roof, on a camper or something, I'm thinking, have you ever tried to get that off of there? Especially if it's an elderly couple. I thought, there's no way, you're going to climb up and throw it off. How did it get up there? I mean, those things weigh a ton. And then even, can you lift it and get it on the vehicle? I have a pry bar I use for that, actually. I may show you. But anyway, so this little compilation of tools opens up a lot of different areas. And they actually make extensions. They make sliding ones with cotter pins and to go a little higher, because sometimes, I mean, if you've got a raised vehicle, you've got to get feet off the ground in order to get a tire off. Plus, if you've got a big suspension, then as soon as you start lifting, that suspension sags and that wheel stays on the ground, so you've got to overcome the suspension. So that's why you end up needing a jack like this. Here's the handle, 2-part handle, snaps in here, also releases the hydraulics here. And what I did is, and they send you a bag if you buy the kit, okay bag, is I built this. And what this is a piece of wood. It's actually two, what are these? Grab my Milwaukee stud again. So these are probably 3/4 inch plywood. And I sanded them and glued them together. So I've got a super solid base of, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 10 layers of wood. And I cut it to fit into the bottom of this, so I'd always have it with me. And so what I can do then is use this as part of my jack stand for times when there's a less stable or kind of muddy, rocky, gravelly, dirty, or dirt soil platform. So it gives me, if you look at this, if I put this right here, there's 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's actually 6 times larger than this base here. So if I was lifting 600 pounds, basically I've dropped the force on any given square inch down. Well, let's say it was 600 on this side. I've dropped it down to 100, not per square inch, but per jack base. So it's a way of really dealing with it and proving the safety. Some people cut out spaces where the jack then can fit down in, and you can buy stuff that actually has that space built in. I didn't want that. Generally, once you start pushing, you're not going to walk the jack very far. Plus, sometimes just the layout of the rocks or whatever I might be using it on don't allow me to have everything perfectly centered. And if I've introduced a depression in it, now I've also introduced another problem. Yeah, sure, I could turn it over, but then I've also reduced the overall strength of the thing. Total cost of this was almost nothing. And it's pretty crude, and I expect to bust it up, and then I'll just build another. So, safe jack. The set's like 170 to 250, depending on what you're getting for a standard kind of standard vehicle. They make stuff, I mean, obviously locomotives and airplanes and massive trucks take all kinds of other jacking needs. This is the size I need for my overlanding adventures and my my garage work. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. If you need, probably the best commercial jack for the average DIYer, here you go. The Safe Jack Company. Hope this was helpful. Doc out.